Well, I have Dennis Ziemienski. Dennis has been on before, but this is special because you have never had a retrospective,
True.
and this is your first big major retrospective, I guess, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And so you drove 1,000 miles, brought me a bunch of paintings, and this isn't all of them, but we're working on it. It takes a long time. I don't have to tell you. You did all the work. I mean, I don't. My work
Right.
starts when I get the paintings, and you're like,
Right. Yes. Yes. So driving, all the way down from Northern California to
Right.
here, I didn't have the time to box them all up, which would have been ideal because they're a little safer rather than rattling around in this U-Haul vehicle. But
yeah, they're all
I don't-
perfect. We looked at them perfect.
thank you.
Yeah. So, I guess people can, if they want to know the backstory, because you have a very interesting backstory, and, maybe we'll just start there,
Okay.
a little bit of your backstory, because the retrospective is going to be about 60 paintings of work that you've done, fine art, including new stuff. And we're going to there's a book, which is here. If you're watching
There we
YouTube,
go.
you can see it, called Ziemienski. And we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
But in the museum, our Maynard-Dixon Native American Museum, we're going to have an illustration show of all your work from when you began, which is 25 years of your work, and probably 50
Right.
years ago, right?
50 years ago. That's probably when it started. Yes.
Yeah, so let's just kind of take it from there.
All right.
Your art career, where it started.
Right.
Maybe even in, your,
Before.
yeah, even,
Yeah. Well, I've always thought art was my thing.
clearly.
Um,
It is.
my mother would give me crayons and stuff, and in grammar school, when they had the show and tell, instead
Yeah.
of showing and telling or
Right.
whatever, the teacher would say, Dennis, why don't you get up and draw some of your cartoon figures, Bugs Bunny or Daffy Duck or something like
Yeah.
that, Mickey Mouse. And so that felt good, because a lot of people were interested in that. And I felt like, well, without being too outgoing, I could maybe become famous drawing these things.
Yeah,
I love doing this.
Yeah, you got positive accolades.
positive. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, which we all
And,
need.
and so all through, public school, high school, I did the posters. In fact, I was president of the art club and whatnot. So
It's cool you had an art club. We didn't have any art.
yeah, well, I had to start it. Actually,
So you started the art
I
club.
started the art
Yeah.
club because we didn't have one, and there were a lot of kids that would come after school. And
Was this in San Francisco?
no, this was in Vallejo.
Where's that?
It's just north of San Francisco.
Okay.
It's a big. At that point in time, there was a shipyard, Marion Naval Shipyard, and my dad was a ship designer and nuclear engineer, and so he was able to put together nuclear submarines.
What you ended
design-
up on as in the Navy, as a submariner.
because the draft was after me. This was in the late '60s,
Right.
and I was trying to go to San Jose State, and the draft was bugging me and everything. And so my dad said, "Why don't you just go ahead and join the Navy Reserve? That way, you only have to go on 1 week in a month, and you
Right.
can finish your school and stuff like that."
Was he World War II?
His World War, just a little bit before World War II. His other brothers, he had 3 other brothers, were in World War II.
They all were. All three of them.
All 3 of them, yeah.
Wow. They saw combat in the whole thing?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Wow. I didn't. I guess because there was a group of brothers that got killed like that, right? So they said,
Oh, yeah.
no more doing that, right?
Right. Well, all on the same ship. They were all on the same ship, and then they dedicated a ship called the Sullivan,
Yeah.
USS Sullivan.
Yeah.
Was those 5 brothers that they all wanted to be together.
Yeah.
Brotherly love, I guess.
Did they make it, by the way?
No, they did not. They
No,
were-
your.
Oh yeah. My uncles,
They made it.
they all made it. There was one Uncle Joe who was in the Marines, and he was on Guadalcanal, I believe. And he was a lieutenant. He had just finished his degree at Notre Dame. They're all from Massachusetts,
Yeah.
so they went to. Uncle Ted went to Northwestern in Chicago, and then
all academically
all
trained,
academic.
and then they're in the
people,
war.
Yeah. My dad went to Cal
Yeah.
and engineer, and Uncle Ed, I'm not sure about him, what happened there. But Uncle Joe was at Guadalcanal. He was a lieutenant, and he said he saw he didn't like talking. None of these folks like talking
Right.
about war.
Was your dad in the Navy?
My dad was in the Navy.
Yeah.
So, but it was just before World War II, and they called him back, but he had some sort of accident. He got blinded in one eye, and so he was assigned to help design different facets of ships.
And that's
things
kind of
like
where
that. In Mare Island.
Yeah. And then that became his career.
That became his career. Yeah. So he went back, got a master's, I believe, at Cal, and did quite well.
And then where did you go to undergraduate?
So I went to San Jose State before the Navy because you have 6 years worth of Navy, 2 years of going to those meetings,
Right.
2 years being on active duty, and then 2 years of follow up. If you get called out, you get called out. You get called out.
12 years.
Yeah. No. I'm sorry. 2 of each.
Okay, 6 years. I was
6
going to say,
years.
that's a long commitment. I
didn't say
did
that.
9,
Didn't
and
say
it
that
seems
right.
that was a long time.
No. After that, being in the Navy, I realized I'm looking at several people, and I'm thinking about, well, I didn't really get to use my art career here.
From San Jose.
From San Jose, no. I'd made it to a junior year before they called me up, and they shipped me to Pearl Harbor, and I was on a submarine there, and we went out, frequently, then went off to a place called Westpac, or the Western Pacific.
Right.
And
That's 67, 68?
this is 68 and 9.
Yeah, so
And
height of the
so-
Vietnam War.
Yeah. And we got to go pick up people along the coast, the Gulf of Tonkin and
all
stuff.
that.
So I was in that. I rarely talk about it, but when somebody says, I'm a veteran, for me, it's kind of like, oh, yeah, I guess I am too.
Yeah.
I never really think about it. A veteran of foreign wars, or something.
Yeah.
But I get, okay, all right.
Yeah, no, I get it.
There's that. But
I don't think of it often either.
yeah.
I think only when I meet other vets or it's like Veterans Day and people are saying thank you. Otherwise, it doesn't really.
Yeah, thank you for what? Oh, yeah.
Well,
okay.
it's a big thank you, actually. In retrospect, now I think it was a big gift.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I'm not a sucker or a loser. So,
yeah.
So
I
there you
never
go.
thought you were.
but anyway, my uncles, to finish that whole thing, my Uncle Joe saw his commanding officer get shot through the neck, and he took command and stuff. So, and my other uncle Ted flew combat missions over the Burma, over the hump into China and Japan, on B-20. It's all, when you see it in the movies, you kind of go, oh boy.
Yeah, and that
They
was your
lived
family
horrible
history.
lives. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
so-
but you have a degree is it in illustration from San Jose?
No, actually, while I was in the Navy, and complete that story too.
Yeah.
I realized this is not where I want to be,
Right.
But for the grace of God go I.
It's not my
I
career.
need to go back. And in San Jose, it was kind of goof off a little bit, I'd go to frat parties and do my art. It's just introductory
You're a
to
college
art.
kid.
Yeah. But going back, I'm in upper division. So, Dennis, what do you really want to do? How does it work? So I went back to art school.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the California College of the Arts and Crafts.
Yeah.
Arts and Crafts.
In
Now it's
Oakland.
called California College of the Arts.
Yeah.
And
In
they
Oakland.
took off the crafts. So going there, I realized my focus was on what I would look at in newspapers and on book covers and posters, events, and I'd like to do that, But I did have a painting instructor who asked in the class, so how many of you really want to be professional painters? And nearly everybody raised their hands, And he posed that question. It's kind of like, well, we're here, why not? He says, well, I'd say more than 90% of you won't be.
It's probably true.
There'll be a few of you that will take, if you could, more classes in illustration. If you're an image person, if you're a person that likes painting things and, oh, that looks just like what it's supposed to look like, or my version of what it's supposed
Right.
to look like, whether it's a typewriter or a figure or a horse, whatever.
Or a
horse,
Super Bowl.
Or a
football.
Super Bowl, right? You'll go there because in the art world, it's kind of a back door. You have to have a rich grandmother to go into the art world from here.
Mm-hmm.
If you really want to go into the art world, the best way to do it is through design,
Mm-hmm.
commercial art, graphic design and illustration. So I thought, well, I'm already in that crowd. That's good. I'm glad. I never thought of going into fine artwork.
Mm-hmm.
I thought
At that point.
well, yeah, at that point, it's perfect. Okay, as long as I'm doing illustration, I'm happy. I get to have some fun with that.
Yeah, and make money.
And make money and have a living and everything else.
So how long was Cal Arts?
That was just 2 years. It was
years.
the upper division part.
Yeah, right.
And so I did do up to 3 years at San Jose and then
Right.
had to start over again.
And
Really.
so you end up with your degree.
End up with a BFA, a Bachelor of Fine Arts, and then I had a studio in Palo Alto.
By the way, any of those people at Cal Arts, that guy said 90% of you be gone, was there any of the people that made it besides yourself from that class that you know?
There was one other, and there were probably about 60 people in that auditorium
Right.
talking about.
And only one other that you
painting.
actually know that made it
Right.
as a professional?
Yeah.
Do you remember his name or her name?
No,
Yeah.
I don't remember his name.
But they made it.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it was less than 90 probably.
Right. Well, they endured.
95% didn't make it.
Well, that's the whole thing. You have to have an attitude too. When you do what I do, you can't say, oh, you present it to somebody and say, it could have looked better if I did this. They don't want to hear that. They want you to present something and kind of go,
Right.
This isn't this the best? Isn't this cool?
Yeah.
You have to kind of blow yourself up a little bit, even a lot at times, to convince people that what they're getting is a good thing.
Yeah, and worth hiring.
Provided that you think it's good.
Right.
If you don't think it's good, don't present it.
Yeah.
But never say, "Oh, it could have been better if I used a different color."
Yeah, remember that.
Yeah. So in commercial art,
Right.
in illustration, same thing.
So you're in your mid-20s, you have the degree.
Right.
And so how do you get a job and what do you do?
Well,
And we'll see some of these things from that career
Right.
in the show that we're doing on you.
exactly, we'll do that.
Yeah.
And so, starting out, I was looking for some employment because I knew there were design shops all over because I could design as well. I could put together illustrations along with type and everything else.
Yeah, they give you the
about that.
nugget and say, this is the ad or this is what we want. And you can
so
make the
you
design
arrange
and
it.
paint it.
Yeah, and that's it. Yeah. So I was
be the
looking
fun
for
part, I would
employment, and so I figured there were a lot of studios and graphic design firms in San Francisco, not too far from where I
Right.
was. And I had a grandmother that lived in Palo Alto, and
Yeah.
I got an apartment there, not too far away from her. So I got great Sicilian food
Right.
if I wanted to. At any rate. Also, the magazine, Communication Arts magazine, was out of Palo Alto, and I would go and visit and from time to time get a few things in there when I was doing my illustration. But I thought freelance, well, that's kind of hard because you have to really cart your portfolio around.
Yeah.
And, and those.
No
in
internet.
that day, no internet. It's in the mid 70s.
Right.
The best thing you can do is have this portfolio,
Right.
and you open it up and they kind of go, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Right. We'll call you.
Yeah, we'll call you. And sometimes the person who kind of looks at it like that goes, yeah, here, go ahead, go. You get a call from him. The person who pores over your work and goes, wow, that's fun. You won't get a call from them ever. So Go figure. I don't know.
I don't know either.
But
You lived it. I didn't.
while I was in Palo Alto, the first person I went to was a fellow illustrator, and he's about 20 years older than me, so he was in the field for
Right.
quite some time. And I told him, his name was Dick Cole, wonderful fellow,
Yeah.
just absolutely funny. You know, I went to his place and says, "What do you want a job for? Why don't you just go freelance? You know, there's plenty of places around here that'd love to see your stuff." And
Right.
so I thought, yeah, okay. But then that's when things start happening. When you're kind of like at a loss, you know, like, where do I go? How do
Right.
I do this? Somebody gives you a call and says, "I heard you're looking for design and illustration work." And so it's Stephen Jacobs Design in Palo Alto. So I worked for them for a year until I realized I was getting more calls outside of Stephen Jacobs Design. And I couldn't hardly do the work for Stephen Jacobs, so I had to let
Right.
go of that and start my own business. Where Palo Alto to San Francisco is about a 40-minute drive, or you take the train. You can take the commuter train up there. So that was pretty easy.
And so you got the Super Bowl thing for Sports Illustrated pretty early then, right?
Well, actually, it was not for Sports Illustrated. It was for the NFL.
For the NFL.
Yeah.
For this. Oh yeah, that was for the Super Bowl. I was actually talking about for the Olympics. I'm sorry.
Oh, the Olympics. Yeah. No, that was that was earlier than the Super Bowl.
Yes.
And
Right.
when you
76 or something.
you
When
know,
was it?
well, when you start doing freelance, you start making friends. You know, art directors.
Right.
And those art directors move from maybe Safeway, and they go to some sort of other Target or something. We'll just come up with that, and then they move to the NFL, and so
Right.
they've followed you, and then now they want you to do something for the NFL. So
Right. So you did the California, LA Olympics.
yeah, that was earlier. That was when I went to New York. Now I was
Okay.
in San Francisco and Palo Alto
Okay.
for we'll back up just a little bit here.
Yeah, do.
After I graduated in '72, started my own business
Right.
in '74. So here we are.
And then you start working for that other company.
Well, I started working for the other company in '73,
Okay.
and then just was there a year,
see,
and
and
then
then
I
you're
moved
just
on to
freelancing.
freelance.
Okay.
And so from '74 and '5 to '80,
Yeah.
I was in the Bay Area,
Okay.
and that was good. You know, I was was building a
Clientele. base.
following,
Yeah.
clientele. And then I had a girlfriend who said, you know, I think I'm going to go to New York. You know, there's that song, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. And she left for New York. And I was
Right.
going, man, you know, I better do that.
Right.
Because I'll kick myself if that doesn't
Yeah.
happen.
Give it a go for sure.
Yeah. So I had an agent in San Francisco already,
Right.
which he was wonderful. He was getting me work from LA.
Yeah.
I did a movie, intros, and lots of other different fun things all over California. But then going to New York, I got an agent there, and we started making more. You know, I doubled my income going to New York. The next year, I doubled it again. The next year, I doubled that again.
And what year was that you got
80,
there?
81, 82.
That's when you got
up
there
to
was
85.
80, from 80 to 85?
80, 86, really.
Okay, 6 years.
Yeah, yeah. So during that time, 84 Olympics was happening.
Yeah.
And my agent knew all the art directors. I didn't have to take my portfolio around.
Nice.
I joined the Society of Illustrators. You start meeting all your colleagues,
Right.
rather high up colleagues and everything. So
Right.
they start introducing you to various people as
Yeah.
well, art directors and whatnot. And so I got to do the Sports Illustrated
Yeah.
1984
We'll
Olympics.
have at least one piece in there
Yes.
for the show.
Yeah. And so that was fun. That was one of the fun things I did, National Lampoon.
Yeah, tell us about that one.
Well, that was interesting in that it's all tongue in cheek, you know, and I got the cover, and I had done some interior stories as well. But this one here was kind of, you know, they wanted cheerleaders.
Yeah.
Where there was a T on each one of their jerseys like this, but one of the girls has turned around and has flipped her skirt up, and there's an A
Yeah.
on her underwear
Yeah.
underneath. So it's not, you know.
And you and Ed
it's
Mel
more
have that
B-rated.
in common because he did Minnie Mouse with her breasts out, kind of a thing, and they got sued, which they wanted to, National Lampoon. I don't remember what year that was, but you guys both did that.
Oh yeah.
To have two artists that do National Lampoon
Well,
covers.
it was
That
kind
was
of
a
like,
good cover, though. That was one that got a lot of people.
It did.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the more memorable ones for whatever reason.
Yeah. Well, it was.
Have you ever had anybody come up and say, "Can you track you down to get you to sign one of those?"
Yes,
I
I've
would
had
say-
people call me up and I say you're either going to have to come where I am, or I'd worry about shipping.
Yeah,
and
you
I
don't
can
wanna
sign
lose
it
it.
or something like that.
Right.
But
Come to my show.
yeah,
You
there
know?
you go. That's right.
Bring your National Lampoon. We don't care about making money or doing any of that. Just bring your National Lampoons. He'll set up. He'll sit there and sign it with his book.
There you go.
I don't know about that. So, so you did National Lampoon. And what
Yeah.
other things? You see, you do
Oh man.
the Olympics, National Lampoon.
Well, geez.
Because you end up doing like the Academy Awards too, right?
Yeah. What we need here.
Yeah. It's
Can
in
I
the
can I
book.
can I do
Yeah,
this?
go for it. So
All
people
right.
won't
All
be
right.
able
This
to
is going
see
to
it,
remind
but-
me of
Yeah.
because
So what he's doing for those who are just listening and not watching this, he's got his new book, which is Dennis Ziemienski's book, and in it,
in it, the first chapter is called illustration.
Yes.
You see, right here.
and this is what you have
Pick it
when,
up.
when you have a retrospective. What happens is that you forget all your work because it's been so long,
Right.
and that's why you need the book.
Right.
So it just shows.
And I could do cartooning too,
Yeah.
and that was one of the first things that I did.
Yeah.
I got a big kick out of that.
This book,
but
by the
in-
way, is available. That's one of the reasons we're doing this podcast.
And so for my illustration, here's a nice
Yeah.
page. Here's a nice
So there's
spread
a
right
Super
here.
Bowl,
Super Bowl in Kentucky Derby was here. This is very interesting.
You can
Can I,
imagine.
can I tell you this story
Well,
right here?
yeah, tell me the story, but let's
Okay.
put the thing down.
Okay, let's put it down.
Yeah.
Okay.
The people that are listening won't.
Okay,
be
well,
able to see it.
okay. This one right here,
Uh-huh.
Kentucky Derby, the 132nd running of the Roses.
Right.
Okay. This is very spooky altogether. May have mentioned it to you before.
I know the story, but share. it.
But May 6th is my birthday. Okay. And they asked me to do this in November, about a half a year before.
Right, the poster.
To do a poster
Right.
for the Kentucky Derby.
Right.
And I thought, wow, that's really pretty good. But I was used to trying to do covers or, Time magazine. They ask about 5 different people to do the cover and they select one.
Mm-hmm.
And I never got selected for that. Super Bowl, they do the same thing. They ask 3 or 4 illustrators to come up with a thing.
But you did
I got
get-
selected
yeah.
for that one,
Yeah.
which is great. And this one right here, when Kentucky Derby called me up, by this time, it's 2006,
Yeah.
and I'm already into
Fine art.
fine art.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, do I really need to do that?
Right.
And because they're going to select somebody out of the group of people that,
Right.
perhaps that's going to happen. And so from my daughter and my wife, who are really into horses, and we have some relatives who live in Kentucky, they said, don't you dare not do that.
And this is just present a painting so that they decide between artists who they're going to use.
Yeah,
Right.
like that's what I thought.
Yes, I
So
see.
I called them up and I said, if there's a group of artists that are vying for this thing, I'm really truly not interested. So, no, we want you to do it. I went, oh, okay, I'll do it. And so I told them to send me a bunch of the other posters that had been done over the years, and it's usually a lot of horses in them. And this
Makes
one,
sense for the Kentucky Derby.
yeah, a lot of horses in there. And for me, my main focus on composition is getting a central object, figure,
Right.
whatever you have, and everything else in it.
Right.
Even though there might be a lot of things going on, that's subordinate to the main feature of my piece, because that gives you strength. It gives the viewer a strength to look at something and kind of go, oh, but look at all the stuff going on.
Right.
So I decided to do just one horse at top speed, and it's called Out in Front.
Yeah.
Well, you want to put the Churchill Downs building in there. You know want to give it all the character it could have for a Kentucky Derby
Right.
poster. So I was excited about that, and then I was up against the wall. Okay, usually your horse race is from 1 to 20 numbers on horses.
Right.
One that you're voting on number 8 or
Right.
20 or whatever, and so. And my wife was on the phone with her mother, who sometimes could get a little funny, she would quibble the whole time, like, "What do you mean? Maybe I'll change my mind or whatever." No, Ann asked. I said, "Ask your mother a number from 1 to 20, and we'll go with that." And so she said 8.
And she didn't quibble. It was
she didn't
8.
quibble. It was 8.
And so when she did that,
I put 8.
right.
Right there. And who wins? But Barbaro, number 8. But that's not the end of it.
Yeah.
132nd running of the Roses, 13 and 2 with a trifecta. 8, 13 and 2.
Oh yeah. So they all thought it was rigged.
Yeah. I said, no, I did this 6 months before.
Did they catch some people going, "Hey, how do they do that? What's this?"
How did you know that?
I bet
You'll
there
have
was-
to ask my mother-in-law.
Yeah. I bet there were some people who were like, "How did he do that?"
Yeah,
rigged, it's rigged.
I did bet on Barbaro number 8
Yeah.
there, and $20 to get back 200. That's kind of cool, but I should have done the trifecta.
Yeah, but who would have
Damn.
known?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you might have put 6 because it was your birthday too.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
There it is.
I'm surprised you didn't put 6 for the number, but you just decided the mother-in-law
Yeah, ask your mom what.
make her happy.
do
you
a number.
know.
Yeah.
Good, yeah.
She blurted it out. That was it. But getting back to some of the earlier illustrations in there, I was kind of wanting to go through that to give you an idea of what some of these things. In fact, I'm going to do that again. Just
All right.
go get it and
Great, makes great radio.
well. Oh, I'm sorry. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, here we got
This is
book
me
covers.
as the.
Yeah, we got book covers here. We have
Well, the most important book cover is that one. I think.
right here. That's a Mark Sublette.
Oh, I was going to
Between
show
the
you
Lines.
there's this thing that happened too, but we will talk about that later. Anyway,
Whoops.
don't worry
Does that
about
happen
that.
on every?
No. So you did lots of book covers. Mm-hmm. How many book covers do you think you did? There's your National Lampoon. by the
Oh
way.
yeah, there's National
Just like
Lampoon.
we don't want to give them too much because they have to buy the book to get
Okay.
this.
Okay. Very good.
But how many book covers would you say you did?
Oh gosh, at least 50 or 60. Yeah,
Wow, that's a lot.
yeah. Over a period.
How do people find
It'd be
you?
a series like this one had 10.
Yeah,
to
how do
the
people
series.
find you? Is that still through the agents? Yeah.
And the agents would know all the art directors at say like Dover Books or I don't know, whatever.
And I've got a new series, and Dennis is doing my next book that's going out. So
Well, thank you.
yeah,
I'd
he
love
says,
it.
he
I'd
says
love
he'll
to
do it. I hope
yeah.
he does.
Well, I hope he does too.
So I hope he
So,
does too.
yeah.
In third person.
But here's Armstead Maupin here,
Yeah.
Mercedes Lambert, and Elmore Leonard. I did 5 of his. They were paperbacks, but still, you
Yeah.
know. Patricia Hearst, on there. But yeah,
So you work at this for 25 years.
yes,
So let's just kind of go from there.
Okay.
So we do all these illustrations. You're really quite acclaimed. I mean, we're talking some major
there's some good
illustrations.
stuff.
Yeah. And so that's the first part of his career, by the way. So is this illustration period, which sounds like it starts, would you say it's fair to say 73?
Yes.
So 73 until, well,
And then they started getting going in '74. So
Yeah.
50 years.
yeah, of work, basically.
Of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you've been doing it for at least 25 years, successful, making money. Why the hell did you go into fine art?
It just looked good. No. It was.
I mean, I'm
an
sure-
anomaly. Yeah.
I'm sure it was you're a person who thinks and doesn't just jump at things. You thought about it.
Right.
So
Right.
what was your process that's saying
Well,
why?
I consider myself loyal, and faithful to what I do and to people that I work for.
Yeah, it's definitely true.
And it was that a lot of these people were phasing out. a lot of the art directors.
Yeah, and they're going to computer stuff
They're going
too.
to computers.
Right.
And a lot of the new illustrators were doing that too.
Yeah.
And I was still pushing paint around.
Yeah.
And and that was my favorite thing, you know, and I tried to do a few of the computer things and it just turned out kind of clunky,
Yeah.
you know. And it had still had like, vision to it, but it's like, oh no, you know,
It lost some of the fun.
I missed some of the moving around in that. And that was in the 90s, so it really wasn't quite that well developed, even though
Right.
I had a few colleagues who were really doing well with that. I think you might have met one, John Matos.
Yeah, I did.
He was, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and he does really well with that. But for me, it wasn't a venue that I wanted to do. It wasn't that I was losing business because people kept asking, but they kept saying, so could you send me that on a JPEG and color
Right.
correct it with a blah, blah, blah? And I'm going, what the hell is that?
Right. So you can see the writing on the wall.
I could see the writing on the wall. And at the same time, a lot of these publishing companies, you know, newspapers and all these book companies don't buy the book covers. That would be an extra cost.
Right.
According to the rep, you'd have a full buyout or a full buyout where you could print it on T-shirts or
Got it.
whatever you want. But to buy the artwork, that's double the amount to buy the artwork. So I would get that's all right.
Is that yours?
Yeah, but it's not going anywhere.
Okay.
I would be getting calls from people. You know that book cover you did for so and so. Do you have that? Do you still have that? He says, well, you know, a lot of this stuff is in my attic or flat
Right.
files. And
There's all your original art. That
all
you
the
did for it.
original
Right.
art that I got back.
Right.
All this stuff that I got back from newspapers, you know, Chicago Tribune or Washington Post or New York
Right.
Times. All this stuff I had,
Right.
you know, Norwegian, Caribbean lines.
Still have a lot of it too.
I still do, yes. And
In fact, that's part of the thing that's going to be so wonderful about this show is the retrospective for the illustration part, which is going to be paired with Maynard Dixon, is that you actually
I'm
still,
honored.
you still have all that material, and we're
Yeah.
going to actually offer it for sale. Really, one of the, I guess, the first time probably ever where it's been at a show where it's actually
Right.
available. People
Right.
call you like this, you know, they were finding you collectors, right? And
Right.
going, do you have this book cover? Do you have that?
yeah, there are some book covers that are in the book here
Yeah.
that are, you know, going to be exhibited, I
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah, and for sale.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He knows this, I think.
Well,
I don't. You're not getting those back. So
okay. No, that's good because we need to kind of release some things here. But I did have a lot of people calling
I'm
during that
sure.
period, and it kind of impressed me. Like, okay, if people want to put this up on their walls, and it's not when you think of commercial art, you think, oh, you know, we've been taught over the last period of the 20th century that it's not really art. You know, somebody said they had gone to an art history, 20th century art history class. Where at the end of the class, somebody said, "Well, what about Norman Rockwell?" "Oh, he was just an illustrator." I said, "I can tell you, you know, Edward Hopper was an illustrator. Maynard Dixon was an illustrator. All these people who were
N.C.
illustrators."
Wyeth wasn't too bad.
Yeah,
Either.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so I could have choked that person, you know, like, come on, you know, it's art.
Yeah, of
and
course.
it's part of the 20th century
Yeah.
piece of art.
Yeah.
It happens. It happened. And so
It's actually kind of in a weird way, extinct in a weird way, as far as painting. I mean, it's all pretty much done digitally
it's
now.
digitally now.
Yeah.
But I have turned things in, say like the 2006.
Yeah, you still do things on occasion.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's posters that I've done, the Fall Arts Festival, let's say in Jackson, Wyoming. That was 2018. That was a event poster that I painted.
Right.
And so
Jack London, you did something for them too, right?
They were for the California State Park in Glen Ellen. That's Jack London's ranch and home there.
Yeah.
It's a state park, and they wanted some posters and things that look like 1910 and 1911 book jackets. So I did 16 of these things, all about different facets of the park. You could go to these places.
Yeah, and you've done one of my book covers. You're going to do another.
Yeah.
I mean, you still on occasion, but it takes away from your core business, your core interest, your core love right now, which is
Painting.
painting,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
why
I
this
come
book
up-
came out. And let's talk about that. So this
Okay.
literally just came out. We just got it. We've
Uh-huh.
got this book, which is Ziemienski, and it's by itself $95, and then there's the other one that's actually a limited edition that has one original drawing in it as well, which is limited number. But how and why, I kind of know, but I'm going to lead you into this question anyway.
Yeah.
How and why did you do this book? Because it's a major undertaking and expensive to do.
Yes, yes. Well, it happened earlier this year, 2024, when I was at the Autry Museum, and they have the Masters of the West, and Mark Sublette and his son, his son Charles were there, and Ann and I were having breakfast with
I
them.
remember it well.
And so Mark asks me, so how old are you going to be this year?
I did ask that question.
Yeah.
Well, it's an important thing as a dealer, thinking about legacy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I have a role in that. It's my responsibility to promote that legacy.
Yeah.
And you go, I've been showing you for like almost 20 years or so. And,
Yeah.
how old are you?
Yeah. So
And you
it
said-
was rather a
In your
a
face question.
yeah, and it kind of
Rude-
hit me like a double-edged sword.
rude dealer at question.
At both, for me, it was kind of like, we're going to have it was like I said, 77, and you said retrospective.
Yeah.
And so both those, it was a double-edged sword. It was kind of like retrospective. That's an honor. Why? Thank you. But what does that mean? Because
Right.
a wonderful colleague of mine, and of course one of your most wonderful artists, Ed Mell,
Yeah.
had recently
Yeah.
passed away.
That week.
And so we realized we're not here
Right.
forever.
And you're the
so-
oldest living relative of the males, probably, too, right?
Yes.
And that also hit you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's hard.
It made me think,
Yeah.
yeah, let's get this going. And then Mark said, and you got to put out a coffee table book. And I went,
So it's so easy to do as a
oh,
dealer.
yeah, yeah.
Can
I
you
said-
just do that?
well, I know.
You got months.
We're asking,
got half a
we're
year.
asking Mark, so how do you do that? Just do it. You'll see. You'll see. And luckily enough, there at the Autry, we had met Adolfo Castillo and his wife Robin,
Right.
and they came up to my pieces and were talking to me, and they were asking a few questions, and somehow we got around to the retrospective. Like we're
Right.
going to be doing this.
Yeah. Once it's decided, boom, now we're going.
Yeah. And so I decided that maybe brag a little bit and have a retrospective, and then have to produce a book.
We call that marketing.
Yeah. Oh, I know. And so they both piped up and said, we can help you with that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, really? I mean, what? Because I had considered a couple of writers who've known me a long, long time, but they're not art writers.
Right.
I thought of my daughter who knows about InDesign and can put together stuff. I was trying to think of all these different ways. But Robin Castillo is a designer and knows InDesign and
Right.
does things for International Art Collector,
Sure.
American Art Collector,
Right.
Western Art Collector. And Adolfo is one of the lead people for
Meant
that
to be.
whole company.
Yeah.
And so they said, we'll help you. We'll put it together. And we also got Michael Clausen, who's one of the best writers
He
around.
really is a good writer.
And so he helped me with that. I said, look, I don't want really an academic book. What you're going to get from me is what I love, pictures.
Yeah. You're an illustrator.
And a book, it's supposed to speak each one speaks 1,000 words, hopefully.
It's a beautiful book. Somebody just bought it. I sent you the email they wrote. It's like one of the best books they've ever owned.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I mean, it's not that there isn't a dialogue in there. Each
Yeah, of
chapter
course.
has an introduction to it.
Right.
Michael Clausen beautifully wrote. Mark here has come up with a forward that is just as sweet as can be.
For Billy Shank.
And Billy Shank, one of my colleagues who knows me quite well, had an introductory essay which starts out, "Who is this guy?" You know.
And Billy Shank collects you as well. So.
Yeah, he does, and I collect his.
Yeah.
He has 13 of mine. I only have 5 of his, so it's a little uneven. At any rate, so we got the thing going, and I would get calls from people. You know, I would ask, "Okay, how many books do we have to produce?"
Right.
And so I'd talk to people, and they say, "Well, we got 1,500, and I still have a lot of them in my garage." And so, and I figured, let's just do 500. So it's a limited edition.
Right.
500.
And then there's a special edition on that.
The special edition with the drawings in them.
Yes.
And so it's well, like I said, limited, and when it's gone, I guess. You know? And that's
the best way, actually, I think. I like that too, because for the collector who wants the book, you know, they know there's a very small run, you know, even way smaller run of just 50 of the, you know, special edition, and so it has value. Besides beauty, it's also nice to have something that retains value, and I think that does happen if you keep the editions low and you go, I'm not reprinting. Like, I'm not reprinting my Maynard Dix book. I never was going to. It was, you know, it was when it's gone, it's gone. And if you want that, you have to get it. So this just dropped. We just started selling this. You know.
This just came out.
Yeah.
And I was concerned because every time I would go, this little side story here was calling up people who did produce books. Oh, you know, you have to go to Italy or China.
All
it's going to take 2 years. And you got to get a writer and all that. I went, well, look,
Mark needs it by
November at least, if not sooner. And here it is in February, March. You know, and I'm trying to get this thing going. Well, we were able to produce this whole thing, and we got printed in Canada, published, you know, there, and got the whole thing done.
That did it?
Friesens.
That's
Friesens
right. Beautiful book. One of the things I like about this book so much is they got the colors right.
Yes.
That's so hard on an art book. So hard.
I was flabbergasted.
Yeah.
When I got the book and looked at the thing, I said, wow.
I've owned a bunch of those paintings. I know what they look like.
Yeah. And I'm looking through it going, every page is kind of fun. You know, it's kind of like it's not just you turn a page and it's just the picture. It does tell you the title and how big it is. And
you broke it into kind of sections.
I did. The sections, there are 8 chapters, and there's an additional chapter about murals that I had done. But the first chapter is illustration, and which is my kind of introductory thing.
Sure. First 25 years.
Yes. And then we go into, let me open the book just one more time. I want to talk about...
So broken into chapters. And the thing
about
Dennis's work, for those who may or may not be aware of it, he has a wide swath of subject matters, whether it's Southwest, old posters, Wyoming. You know, you can tell them, but you're not limited signs. You're not limited to a single kind of subject matter.
Right. Yeah. I think what it is, it comes from my illustration background.
I'm sure.
You know, where you have a series where you paint food all the time.
Yeah.
And you can't wait to paint a figure on a book.
Yeah.
You move on.
Yeah.
And you're compelled, when somebody asks you, can you paint this candy cane thing that we have? You go, yeah. And you go home in the subway going, oh, shit.
I do a candy cane.
And you succeed and you do it.
Right.
And so you're compelled to have a business where you're challenged all the time in doing
and then
something
that becomes
different.
the fun.
That becomes the fun. So if I'm just painting clouds all the time or hillsides or horses, that's fun. But I want to move on to bathing girl, you know, pool scenes or something like that.
Read off the different chapters.
different chapters. Illustrations, introductory chapter of first part of my career.
Yeah.
Then there's a chapter called Let There Be Light, and that's neon.
Yeah.
And neon is kind of fun. In the chapter opening, Michael discusses, along with me, why I like neon. It's because it's an illustration. When I was a little kid, I'll tell this quick story here. In San Francisco, there was this nightclub across the street from my grandmother's apartment, my Polish grandmother's apartment. It was Roy Barney's Huddle, and it was a football player who had a nightclub, and it was a neon sign. And I was only about 7 or 8 years old. At night, I watched this football player kick a football over and over again. I thought, wow, that's really cool. Imagery like that was just fascinating. And so I went down in the morning to take a look at it. It was just this glass tubes.
Yeah.
Like, how the hell does that work?
Right.
And so I examined that, and I came to love neon. I've never made neon, or I'm just fascinated with it.
Yeah.
So
It's also a childhood memory.
yes, and
And
so
a good
when
one
you go
with
to
your
that
Polish
chapter,
grandma.
you'll see, When
it.
you go to that chapter, you'll see all the different types of. It's not just not neon lettering. I'm more fascinated with figures moving and stuff going on. Then there's animal, vegetable, and mineral. That's a chapter where I paint just about everything.
Yeah.
There are birds and buffalo and whatnot,
Yeah.
and vegetable. There could be peppers or whatever.
Cactus,
Mineral,
flowers,
there's a cocktail or a slot machine. All these things that I paint,
Hodgepodge.
it's a hodgepodge. It's where it threw everything into there that I couldn't put other places.
Right. Way out west.
Way out west, because there's a chapter on Mountain West and another chapter on the Southwest.
Yeah.
And I thought, way out west, that's wow.
Yeah.
That's where I'm from.
So I particularly like that title. How original.
Oh, that one there. Yeah, way out west is California.
Yeah.
And then we move on to planes, trains, and
Right.
automobiles.
Which we did a show of.
Yeah. And I love doing that. Old trains,
Yeah.
old airplanes, and old automobiles. There might be a few new ones in there, but very rarely. I'd kind of like to record. It's not a nostalgic thing. It's a historical recording of stuff, I think.
Plus your imagery of how you see it and envision them.
Yes.
Those
Yeah.
20, that 20 through 40 time frame seems to, maybe even 50s, it seems to be
50s, yeah.
a big,
Exactly.
that's your
Yeah.
wheelhouse.
And I just gave you a used car lot, which
Yeah.
was, it's a new painting. Good.
I loved it.
Yeah.
3 cars with the prices on them and I thought it was actually brilliant.
It's got a Hudson, a Studebaker, and a Cadillac
Yeah.
in there.
One was like $250 or something.
Yeah.
And that will be our ad actually for
cool.
at least one of the
I love
magazines
it.
that
I
we're
love
doing.
it.
Yeah, I picked that up yesterday. I thought it was really great.
Mountain West and Happy Trails. Happy Trails is all the things that are included for highway travel, road trips.
Yeah.
You go along Route 66.
Yeah,
I'm
and we've done a
fascinated
few
with
shows like
motels and
Route 66.
Yeah.
You were fascinated by
Yeah.
that.
And then traveling to Italy or to other places I've been around the world.
But you are fascinated by Route 66, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
It seems like it.
Oh, yeah. And there was a place in California
Why
called
is
Route
that?
99.
Why are you fascinated with Route 66?
I guess growing up and just harping on my parents to stop at these various places, neon places in the shape of a giant orange.
Yeah.
You get some orange juice
Right.
there, or a hot dog, or a tamale,
So
or
it
something.
comes back to childhood memories.
It does. I think it really does. And
Yeah.
I'd
Could
have to look
even
in there
say
again.
Ziemienski childhood memories.
Yeah.
Honestly. It could. When
Yeah,
you think
you would
about
think.
it, some
Yeah,
of it. I mean,
yeah.
not all of it, obviously, but
Yeah, psychologist here.
yeah.
Really quite good.
Yeah, after doing this for a while.
Yeah, I know. We've both been doing. Maybe you should have a retrospective.
I have nothing to show.
Yes, you do.
No, it would just be podcasts or
Yeah.
videos or something. I don't make art.
Well,
I create books, I guess.
yeah, but you know how to ask the questions. You're good.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
So we've done this. We've accomplished most of it. You still have more paintings to paint. You're not done.
I have about 3 more
Yeah.
to do for you.
Yeah.
But there are also some drawings.
Yes,
that I
still
might be doing.
a few
Yeah.
things though.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
the bottom line is, and for those who are listening, you literally can put together a major show in a year, even less than a year, with a book, if you're an ex-illustrator, really. I would say, I'm not sure if you could do it unless you're an ex-illustrator, because it takes great discipline. You had to put it all together. You had to get everything there. You had to line it all up. Luckily, you had all the photographs. And we had to round up all the paintings. And it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I bet this has probably been, I'm guessing, and I think I'm probably right, you can tell me, this has been the most busiest, hardest working year of your 50 years.
Yeah.
It is, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just so much you're trying to
Without
get
a
done.
doubt. Yeah. I
Isn't
think
that
so.
interesting?
Yeah.
You know, after 50 years of doing this, and you had to break your butt a lot of times for all those
Oh yeah,
different
no, I've had
illustrations.
4 shows in a year.
Yeah.
Where you right after you finish one, you working on the next. Actually, you're overlapping them.
Yeah.
You're making sure you're not sending the wrong painting out. But
But this
I
one,
love doing this. I
you drove
I
1,000 miles with paintings from your studio.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, driving down here. I always love road trips, but not in a U-Haul van. It's
Yeah,
a little
it's
rugged.
horrible. Yeah. So what would you tell to artists, maybe artists that are more in your neck of the 70s, 80s,
Oh,
about the experience and what's going on and recommendations?
oh, well, I would keep telling them to do what they love doing.
Yeah.
First of all, to struggle to maybe try to get into a gallery. It's the connections. You need the connections.
Right.
And for what I did during the time when I got together with you, you're my first gallery person. I used my advertising ability to put in 3 full-page ads in Southwest Art Magazine.
Yep.
Way back when.
Yep.
And I figured this is kind of like Normandy. You're bombarding the coast before you make the
That's
attack.
where I saw it. I remember it.
And
Ziemienski.
And then you send
big
your
image.
portfolio after you get those ads out 3 months in a row. Then you send your portfolio out to your favorite places in hopes that they have seen this ad, and you make those calls. And it worked.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw it on the first ad. And Michael Edema saw it.
Yeah, yeah,
We both saw it. And he was like,
yeah.
there's a really good artist you should look at. And I go, yeah, I just saw that ad. Who is it? It just says his name. It was a conquistador
Yes, and it was
on a horse, I
was
believe.
also helpful to have a colleague,
Yes,
Francis Livingston,
that's correct.
who is also an illustrator
Yes.
and a fine art painter now.
And also spoke up for you.
Yes, he did. And
did,
so
most
it's
definitely.
good to have those connections.
Yep.
And I wouldn't, Mark, I really wouldn't know how to tell people to access those connections. But if you've been in the business long enough, you start to know
Yeah.
where to go.
But let's say as an older artist, almost hitting 80, we won't get there yet, but close.
Hopefully.
And, would you encourage them to try to have a show, a retrospective of all their work and do all this? Do you think it? I mean,
Yeah,
I
sure.
pushed you to
Yeah.
do it because I think it's necessary. Personally, I think it's
Yeah.
very important. But you've done it now, pretty much. I mean, the hard work is pretty much over.
Right. No, it's
And
just
you
coming
just-
here now.
Yeah, and you just said it was one of the
Signing
hardest
books.
years ever. For
Yeah.
you at 70, almost 77.
Yeah. Well, I turned 7 in May.
Yeah, May 6th for those who want to send cards. But yeah, but you say yes, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. To try to get the full advantage of your life in there.
Yeah.
Don't
Celebration.
neglect. Yeah. I mean, to my colleague John Matos, who I think he knows a lot of people. I mean, when you talk to him, it seems like you might say, this fellow. Oh yeah, I know him. Blah 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 blah. He knows all these people, so there's no problem for him. And he's maybe 2 or 3 years younger than I am. No problem for him to try to get this stuff together, and I'll
Right.
show him the book, and he'll kind of go, "Oh, maybe I should do that."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there are some folks out there that should try to do that. And I think Francis is thinking about it.
Yeah, we're going to do it with Francis. I'm doing one with Billy Shank.
Good.
So,
Well, that was another thing. I talked to my colleague Billy Shank, your colleague and friend, when I go to Santa Fe, rather. I usually stay at his place, and it's kind of interesting in that. I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
with Billy, because he's getting older too, and he's going to do a museum thing kind of deal.
So I'm sorry about when I mentioned I'm going to be doing a retrospective. He goes, "Oh, that's great," and I kind of had a worried expression. Retrospective. Just, oh, come on, Dennis, I've had 7. And it kind of goes, oh, all right. But that's Billy for you.
Yeah.
See,
So we're having one.
77. I lost my train of thought.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, we're gonna have one
Old fart.
with him in I think 2025. Is that's
Yeah,
right?
that's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we are. We've been working on it for a couple of years. So
Okay,
you're
good,
first,
good.
followed by I think I'd have to do. I think you're first.
Get the old guys.
Then then well, they're of that age and
Yeah.
of that merit, right?
Well, I think so.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though Francis is a little younger, not a lot,
No.
and he's like in 2026.
Well, we talked about a week or so ago.
Yeah.
You know, and
So-
he saw all this stuff happening.
Yeah, no, I think it's important for art and artistry and a person who's put 50 freaking years into something that they be recognized.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And I didn't give up. You know, there are times where you kind of go,
Yeah, well, just
Oh,
look at your
shit.
art guy.
Yeah.
He said 90% of your toast. You're never going to make it. You're never going to be
Yeah.
in this because you're going to give up.
Yeah.
And it was probably more. It was probably more like 95%.
Yeah.
And the one guy that didn't, we don't know exactly where he is. But so I mean, it is a very rare air to get to this. Maynard Dixon said the most proud thing he was he made his life's work painting and was able to do it and make it as an artist. That was his proudest thing.
well,
That he could make a living as an
I'll
artist.
have to parrot that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very proud of what I've done.
Yeah.
You know, the book.
And it's hard to flip
It's-
too.
yeah.
It's not just easy to just go from illustration to fine art. It's not exactly just.
No. Yeah.
In fact, I think because you have design, and you could do
Right.
the art.
Well, the first few pieces that you got and I produced for fine art were they had more of that more of the Maynard. I mean, I didn't know about Maynard Dixon until I started doing fine art.
Yeah.
Isn't that odd? You know,
No, Howard Post didn't either.
it's like wow.
I think a lot of them didn't.
Yeah, and somebody said, "Oh, your clouds just look just like Maynard Dixon." I go,
Yeah.
Who the hell is that?
Yeah.
You know, and I'd look them up and go, "Holy cow, this
Yeah.
is great."
And they do.
Yeah. Well,
Kind
I don't know.
So you look like Dennis Ziemienski. I mean, I could pick your painting.
There's a
out
Dennis
for-
Ziemienski.
Yeah, same with
Oh,
Francis
okay.
Livingston or Bowman or any of these.
Yeah.
You know, Blackshear. They all have their own
Style.
sensibility for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the way the colors
Okay,
that you
good,
use, the way you
good,
lay down the
yeah.
paint, the choice of composition, and so
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You know, the transition, even though it sounds remarkable, it may have been a little bumpy, but not that bumpy. It was kind of
not too bumpy for you.
no. It's amazing that when you start getting people asking for the illustrations that you did, and if they could be framed and hung
Right.
above their fireplace or couch or something,
Right.
it's kind of like, wow, well, maybe I should move on from illustration. You know,
Right.
not entirely. I still do it from time to time,
Yeah.
but let's see what happens in these galleries here and see if we can do that, because I love to still push paint. I'm pushing paint still.
Yeah.
And I'll push it till I go,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, you will for sure, 100%.
Yeah, okay.
So, anybody who's watching this, hearing this, should try to come out. You know, this is a podcast that'll last for the ages, but it is dated in the sense of we have a show on the 6th of December, and on the 5th, if you happen to be in town early, he's gonna give a lecture, Dennis, on his illustration, limited seating, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about Dixon because we're gonna do Dixon and Ziemienski in the museum, and then the retrospective
I'm honored.
up above.
That's
It's gonna be fun. It'll be like
Yeah.
there'll be over 60 pieces for sure.
Yeah.
So we don't really we're still plowing through illustrations to see what all's going to be there because
Yeah.
you know that's a quarter of a century worth of work as well. So,
Yeah.
well, and
Good.
you drove in, unloaded all your paintings, did a bunch of little videos for me. I threw you in the podcast room. Are you ready to go check into your hotel?
Probably, yeah. I got to turn the truck back in.
Oh yeah, sorry, got to go
Right.
turn in the rental truck.
Yeah.
Which is a big,
big
huge
deal.
So,
Yeah.
but that's part of being a professional artist, right? I mean,
Yeah, all of it is. You know,
Yeah.
it's where you have to, and of course, I have to applaud and acknowledge Anne. Annie's my wife, and she. I get up every morning or wake up every morning and ask her, "So, what are we doing?"
yeah, Yeah, she helps
Yeah.
you, keeps you on
She keeps
track.
me on track.
Yeah, this was a
even
lot.
though I have a whiteboard and I can see where
A lot of
all
moving
these things are
things.
moving parts.
Yeah.
And you have to put that together, and you have
Helps.
to make sure, okay, I can spend that week and part of that week
Yeah.
on that and move that around. And she'll come with a list and say, okay, are these doable?
Yeah.
If you can, let's shift things.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
she's good. She
She's-
calls up people.
She'll be, I guarantee you when we get out of this, she'll already know where, exactly when, and everything about the truck return.
Oh, yeah.
And she'll be going, we got to go do this now. And then we got to go check in. And then we got to go see Mark again. And we're going to have dinner with you and Kathleen.
I love it. I love it.
So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, you're a wonderful artist and even a better friend.
Well,
So-
you're an excellent friend and a
So-
gallery person. Couldn't be better.
Thank you very much. So I hope everybody can come. And if you can't, just
Yes,
go
please do.
and get a book. The book's fantastic.
Yeah, I like it. I probably will have one too.
All right. Dennis Ziemienski, thank you.
Okay,
All right,
thank
very
you,
good.
Mark.
You bet.